3, 2, 1. Hey everybody, welcome to the Savvy Vets Resource Webinar. We are so excited to have you here with us. And of course, we are so excited to have our amazing guest, Ms. Chandra Aduse. Before I allow her to introduce herself, I first wanted to start off by saying Savvy Vets is here to get veterans the benefits they deserve. Our transitioning webinar today is focused on 5 financial tips for transitioning service members. If you have registered for our webinar, thank you so much. You will absolutely get notified of upcoming webinars that are similar to this, that gives you transition tips and tricks. And if you are joining us on live or replay, thank you so much for checking us out. You will definitely see the website below where you can go ahead and register for upcoming notifications. And without further ado, Chandra, please introduce yourself to our lovely Savvy Vets Network.
Thank you, Adrian. So real quick, a little bit about me is I left the Navy in 2011 as a surface warfare officer. I'm also a mil-spouse, married to an active duty Marine. And we currently live in San Diego, California, and we have one little girl who is 2 years old and very active. My transition was pretty difficult, and the purpose of this webinar is to help anyone who is going through a transition transition as seamlessly as possible. So I'm going to kick it off right now. All right. So today's topic is about transitioning smartly. We'll talk about the reality of the transition, top 3 components of a successful transition, what makes it as seamless as possible, how do we ease ourselves from our military life to civilian life, and what that can entail. Also the transition itself, the options for your TSP, and developing a spending plan. So with my clients, I typically like to call it a spending plan vice a budget. A budget to me feels very negative, and a spending plan allows you to have more control over your money and your finances. We'll also get into the 2 things you shouldn't forget about as you transition: investing yourself, getting to the next level, and how to contact Savvy Vets and myself for any additional questions you may have. I just want to say up front that the views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in the following presentation belong to Veteran Wealth Partners and not necessarily Savvy Vets organization, their committee, or anyone associated with Savvy Vets. So again, I graduated from the Naval Academy back in 2005, completed 3 at-sea deployments and 1 combat tour in Afghanistan. After I left the military, I did what most military folks do and get a job that's closely related to, if not supporting the military. So I was a project manager at an aerospace company supporting the Air Force. I then went on to consultant work, again, supporting the military, and then ended up as a project manager, again, supporting the Navy, before I realized my calling, my purpose and passion was to help other veteran business owners and entrepreneurs. So why are we talking about transitioning smartly in the first place? The famous words of Benjamin Franklin: an investment in knowledge always pays the best interest. So the more informed you are, the better off you will be in making decisions about your transition. So I think Savvy Vets can see it, but I just wanted to know from either a show of hands or in the comments below, how have you heard others describe the transition process? I've heard a wide range of different ways people have, described their own transition process. And a lot of the underlining descriptions are, hey, it wasn't all of what I expected. And that's also positive. Some people had a great transition. They landed a job, their dream job, right away. Others, it took a little bit of time, a little bit of soul searching to determine what they really wanted in life the most post-military. So it just all depends on your current situation and what your goals are in life post-military. So whatever your goals are post-military, it's very important to be intentional about them. And what I mean by that is, for some of you, this may be the first time that you actually have to, figure out what your career path will be. I know in the military, for me as a surface warfare officer, it was very well defined. You will do this, followed by this, and then you will be, here at the end of your 20-year career. But when you got out into the civilian world, it's not that defined. And it may require you moving from one career to the next to ultimately reach your goal at the end of your civilian career. So for the first 18, 24 months post-transition, it's really important to set SMART goals, right? And those SMART goals mean that you have to set a goal that's specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. So for instance, if you say, hey, I want to, be an established project manager, and then that's your goal, it really helps to put a timeline to it. So instead of saying, hey, I want to be an established project manager, I want to be an established project manager within 2 years. And then you can sort of walk the dog backward and determine, what type of certifications you need, what type of industry you're really looking into, and do they need project managers with your expertise? So that way you can really set yourself up for identifying some of the careers that you are interested in and what type of training, certifications, additional education you may need to support that. So we'll get into your challenges next, and those challenges kind of straddle all of the above, emotional, mental, and financial. The transition itself, the company culture that you may find yourself in, family dynamics, and even your own financial situation all play a role in how well you transition. So the transition itself, show of hands, how many people have already gone through the transition assistance program? Normally, you go through closer to your exit date. Some people can start I've heard some people start as early as 18 months before their commitment is up. Others, will go through their transition, the TAP program, closer to the end. I myself went through TAP about 2 weeks before my date to exit the Navy. I don't recommend that. I think you will better serve yourself if you can get a class earlier than later, probably around the 18-month, 12-month mark, to really give yourself a head start on transitioning properly. At 6 months you can do it. You can always, you can even do it the day before, but I strongly recommend, the earlier the better. That way you can get aligned with resources like Savvy Vets in order to set yourself up properly. Excuse me. Another change that you should consider is company culture. Once you leave the military, there's definitely, whatever job you go to, there is a certain type of culture within that job. And it may be complete 180-degree opposite of what you have experienced in the military. It's important while you're going through your job hunt for your next career to identify what company culture matches your value system the best. So one of I'll give you a personal example. When I left the military, I hired into the first company that accepted my application. But what I found was that their company culture wasn't aligned with my values. They had a very old company culture. Most of the people that were working there had been there for about 30 to 35 years. And so they were very set in how they did business. For example, we're taught in the military that in order to do the job right, it needs to get done no matter how long it takes, or even if there's overtime required. So we had a hot issue come up at about 1:30 p.m. And when I went to my team to resolve it, they said, oh, this issue is going to take about 2 to 3 hours to complete. And I got to leave at 2 p.m. I was like, can we extend? Can we take a look and spend another hour on it? They said, nope, I work 8 hours a day only, and my 8-hour day ends at 2, and I'm going home at 2. So it was kind of a wake-up call for me. wow, people actually leave at their end of their 8-hour day. So it's, finding a company culture that aligns with your, get it done mentality is definitely important to your overall happiness at your new career. Also, family dynamics plays a key role. You may have one vision of your transition, and your spouse or your kids may have another view. It's important to keep them in the loop and talk about what each other's vision is in terms of your military transition. And the next is identifying or understanding your financial situation, right? How much money do you have saved up in case the job hunt or your next career takes a little bit longer? Do you plan on taking a vacation before you jump right into your new career? There's some things to consider when transitioning. So I feel the three components of a successful transition include knowing your worth, taking stock of your overall financial health, and then knowing your tax bracket. So with knowing your worth, what I mean by that is knowing exactly how much you need to continue on with your quality of life. We all know that our military paycheck, affords us a certain lifestyle that we, can quickly grow accustomed to. And when you take all of the benefits that are included in your military pay, you have to be very careful when looking at other jobs outside of the military, because for one thing, they don't include your BAH or your BAS in their overall calculation for your pay. So right then and there, you're going into a job that's not necessarily apples to apples in terms of what you expect for pay. So just knowing exactly how much you need for your quality of life and using that as a starting point, not necessarily including your BAH or your BAS, but using it as your definite, like this is my maximum or my minimum in terms of what I need for me and my family to be okay. When I first got out of the military, I did not do that. I made X amount of dollars in the military, and I thought, yep, that's what I need is X amount of dollars out in the real world. And that is not the case, because I'm going to flip over to know your tax bracket. I did not know my tax bracket. I had been a Florida resident for the entirety of my military career, but I had landed a job in California. So right then and there, my tax bracket was way higher than it was in Florida. In fact, we didn't have income taxes in Florida, but we have income taxes in California. So right then and there, my paycheck, what I thought was an apples to apples, was actually a lot lower, because my tax bracket then became 33%. So 33% of my overall paycheck was taken up due to taxes. So you have to consider the taxes that you'll be paying in wherever you decide to start your next career or retire. And then also during your transition, take stock of your financial health. Know how much you have in savings, how much debt you have remaining, and if you can pay it off before you before you complete your transition. That's always good to know. I knew how much debt I had in the military, and before I transitioned, I made sure I cleared all of it, just in case my job search took a lot longer to complete than I was ready for. So options for your TSP. I always recommend to my clients that they keep their TSP and their current contribution plan. So just to back up, for some of you that may not know, the TSP is a defined contribution plan for both civil service employees and retirees, as well as members of the armed force services. I always recommend that service members keep their TSP, but take another look at it prior to transitioning, and make sure that you are maximizing your return on interest in the TSP. So if it has a low return on interest, you can always look at rebalancing your TSP within the different plans. Also, make sure you update your beneficiaries. For some of you, you started your TSP right when you entered the military, and that was before you got married, before you had kids, before you got married again. So just make sure you update your beneficiaries. Also determine prior to getting out if survivor's benefit plan, the SBP, is right for you. There have been some articles that came out in the New York Times recently that talked about how sometimes SBP, depending on your situation, is not the best move for you, especially those that have been injured in any of the most recent wars. Also, you can, if you feel like your return on interest for your TSP isn't where it should be, you can also roll it over to your new 401k. I recommend just waiting that out and looking at if your new company's 401k is right for you, if the return on interest is good for you as well, your return on investment is good for you, as well as understanding exactly how long you plan on being at your new company. Because if you plan on, using your new company as a launching or a stepping stone to another company, then perhaps keeping your TSP within the TSP is better for you. Plus, there's no other investment vehicle on the market that can beat the plan cost associated with the TSP. Also, you can even, if you really love your TSP and where it is and it's already rebalanced and it's doing great things for you, then you can even look at rolling over your 401k and IRA into your TSP. All right, I would talk to your accountant about that to make sure that you're also taking benefits of any tax breaks associated with that. All right, as we talked about a little bit earlier, taking stock of your overall financial health, it's getting real and understanding like what would happen, running what if scenarios, what would happen if, our move from the military to civilianhood took a little longer than expected in terms of finding the right career, in terms of finding the right location for you and your family. It's about gaining control of any of spending habits that might impact your ability to save for retirement or any other future goals you may have. If it's about increasing the type of quality of life that you want, living a different quality of life that's higher than what you may have lived in the military, then looking at ways on how you can increase cash flow, where you can cut spending, where you can earn an additional income. Also thinking about building your emergency fund. We recommend anywhere between 3 to 12 months of monthly expenses saved. Again, depending on what your goals are and how long you think your transition from the military to your next civilian career will take, as well as planning for the future. It doesn't necessarily mean retirement. I've met a lot of my clients that don't necessarily plan on retiring at 65. I work with a lot of veteran business owners and entrepreneurs, so their vision of retirement is vastly different than what my dad's is, which was retire at 65 and then relax. So a lot of them plan on working well into their retirement years. So it's just identifying like how you're going to work out your life according to how you want to live it and how you want to enjoy it. So the two things that you should not forget about as you transition is your health care and your life insurance options. So, the VA has gotten better over the years in terms of providing adequate health care for those that have transitioned from the military. I encourage you to start setting it up before you leave the military, because I have heard that it can be difficult depending on what VA hospital you go to. And remember, not all the VAs talk to each other. Right. I remember I got set up I got my VA benefits and everything set up in Los Angeles. And then when I moved down here to San Diego, I realized it was a different system. I had to go through the whole network again. So if you plan on using VA for healthcare, I strongly suggest you start setting that up before you leave the military. And also life insurance, right? You have to make sure that your family, you and your spouse are protected. So the military still has some options. There's actually some through the VA. The VGLI is one option. There's also, options that you can use out in town. It just depends on what works best for your situation. Because as we know, as soon as we leave the military, the SGLI that we were using is no longer an option. So also, during the transition, investing in yourself is the best return on your investment you can have. I talk to veterans all the time, and in order to get the career you want, some of those careers that we would like, that are on our goals, require additional training and certifications that we may not have gotten in the military. So, invest in reading educational books, take care of your health, attend seminars and workshops, networking in order to expand your knowledge and skills, so that you can create more value for your next career, business, and in your personal life as well. So just to recap, next steps, setting a smart, specific, measurable, realistic timeline goals for your military transition. I recommend setting 3, no more than 3, because studies have shown that if you set more than 3 goals, you're probably more than likely not to accomplish them. So set your top 3, across your life, personal, career, developmental, health goals, and really look at how, from a holistic standpoint, what you want to get out of your military transition. And also look into the last time you made a spending plan. I know most of you call it a budget, but I call it a spending plan. Give you more control over your money. When's the last time you made an adequate spending plan, and more important, a financial plan for future financial goals that you have for you and your family? And then how much is in your current emergency fund? Again, recommend anywhere from 3 months to 12 months of savings for your monthly expenses. And lastly, have you talked to a financial planner in terms of, aligning some of your financial goals, whether it be investing, real estate, just, what is it that you hope to achieve from a financial perspective in the long run post-military? So here's just some contact information if you have any additional questions around this particular webinar for Savvy Vets or myself. This is the best way to get a hold of Savvy Vets. And with that, I will pass it back over to Adrian for questions.
Thank you so much, Chandra. That was awesome and amazing. I got some really great value out of that. I hope everybody watching at home did as well. Thank you so much for taking the time to share with us. And we have been chimed in, checking to make sure that there's no questions throughout the webinar. So if we don't get to anybody that's chiming in live or again on replay, we are more than happy to follow up with you guys once this webinar has kind of closed out. Again, all of the information in terms of where you can sign up for future webinars is going to be at www.savvyvets.org/veterans. That is plural. Okay, again, Chandra, thank you so much. It looks like we don't have any questions for now. So is there anything that you would like to close out with? Where can we find you? Let's talk about that before we get going. What's your website, social media? Do tell.
If I could go back to the website, our presentation real quick, and just put it out there on the screen here. But yeah, that's the best way to contact me. My office is based out of Carlsbad. My email is included as well as my phone number below. And if I offer anyone who was on this webinar an opportunity to talk with me, a 30-minute free consultation, in order to get them either to the resources they need or some of the information that they still need in terms of their own personal finances.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Again, you guys, I highly encourage you to reach out to her. She is an incredible resource. She knows our community. She is a veteran herself. So please don't hesitate to reach out. Her contact information is there. If you guys have any questions, I will be more than happy to follow up after this webinar. So thanks again, Savvy Vets. You guys are awesome and amazing. We look forward to getting veterans the benefits they deserve. Have a good one. Bye, everyone.
Take care.